Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Hyperion Team Podcast, Captain on the Bridge. I think that's the name that we were going with. It's been some time, so it's good to be back. And we've had such a great um, chapter and story arc that came out, and we're so excited to have um, also some content creators in our community come together and uh, give us some of their thoughts. So we're going to go one by one and go ahead and introduce yourselves. Starting from the top of this list, go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell a little bit about what you do. So, starting with you, Aja.
Oh my god. Uh, I guess you can call me Void Archivist. I used to do lore analysis on Twitter. I'm still active on Twitter, but now I draw. That's it. I draw Void Archives. If you like Void Archives, that's it. That's it. That's all I can say. I don't know what else to say. Sorry.
No, it's your one defining trait. We love that about you. Okay, Captain Play, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I am CaptainPlaysHonkai. I do theory videos on this game. I started like 6 months ago and I'm already on a podcast about it. I'm a bit starstruck.
Well, I wanted to make sure that we encouraged people who were making theory videos. I feel like we don't have that. So when we stumbled upon your channel, I was like, oh my gosh, we have one. we have a theory guy. So I was grateful for that. Hey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Cayjunn. You can call me Kay. I write written guides for new Valkyries, Astrolopes, sometimes events, though I don't usually do that anymore. And yeah, stuff like that.
A good backbone of the community. Thank you for being here. Khairz, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Khairz Newtype. My name is Khairz Newtype. I'm sorry about that. I used to stream on Twitch. I stream Honkai Impact third. I play like story and stuff. But for now, I'm a bit busy with real life, so I'll be doing that again soon, but not in the moment. Not like soon enough. In the future, I hope.
Well, it's good to have you. It's good to have you. Momon, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Momon or Monty. Uh, I draw an anime. Yeah, I think that's it. I love Honkai lesbians.
Don't we all? Yeah, it's good to have
I'm really
artists.
proud.
Yeah, thank you for everything that you do in that regard. It's always good. Zuikatsu, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Zuikatsu. Let's say my content that I create for this franchise is mostly audiobookifying the lore of the game. There's like lots of different little written pieces of writing in Honkai Impact and the newer game Honkai Star Rail that I think go very unnoticed because it's not voiced. So I lend my voice to that. I also do a little bit of writing for Hyperion Team's writing section. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thank you. Like I want to kind of build off of that as we go into the rest of our discussion. Just I think one of the things I really like about what they're doing with part two is they're taking their world building a lot more seriously than they ever have. You know, just the with the lore books and trying to build up like the world of Oxia Langqiu, the planet of Luoxing. There's like so much that they're trying to pull from in like a literary sense to build like this immersion into the world. You know, is it the greatest world building I ever seen in my life? No, but I think it's compelling in its own way, and I'm glad to have uh, the chance to talk about some of those things as we have everybody here today. So let's get into the rest of our discussion. I'm gonna open the floor for us to just freely talk. We're not gonna have it be too formal in this episode, but we'll go ahead and freely talk about some of the thoughts and feelings that you had with part two so far. Let's first just talk about just initial impressions and like the way we feel about it. You know, positive, negative, put it all on the floor. So the floor is open to anyone to go ahead and start talking. Otherwise, I can start.
I really like everything about it, except Sanchi. I'm on that unpopular opinion. I was very
Songchue?
disappointed with her.
Really, what did you find disappointing about Songchue?
I expected more from her story, and I just didn't get that.
I did find that, especially in the EX chapter, I think it was like a little bit incongruous how people felt about her suddenly being missing. Um, the one thing I noticed when I was playing through the chapter, before we knew that she had come, before we knew that she was coming back, especially the cast members of the main cast, that being Helia Corley and Senadina. They seemed very chipper, let's say, at the beginning of the chapter before Songxue came back, and I thought that was a little bit strange. Whereas the members of the cast from Langqiu were appropriately somber for her disappearing.
For me, when you said about people kind of feel, about the Songche resurrected, right? For me, in my way of thinking, is like we know that Songche power is like Coralie theorized, right? Songche power must have been the same as Herrscher. So in my thinking, like I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that because after all, she has that power that can not like revive herself. It's more like the same power that other Herrscher have, like how Corey talks about that can rebuild his own body. And who's the other one? I forgot.
Well,
Herrscher Rebirth Sele.
Yeah, Herrscher of Rebirth. How Sele become a Herrscher of Rebirth. For me, it's fine. The explanation for that, at least for me, because I've seen like on my local Honkai Impact discussion group, people really don't like how they kind of bring Songche back, and I understand, but also they probably miss the line when Coralie theorized about her being have the same power as Herrscher. So yeah, for me, Songche also overall for me, Songche is a great character. The only thing that I'm not really like about part two is only one thing, is that we have Thelema background, right, as the event. I really love that, but then when she was introduced to our main cast, she basically did nothing that seems like but actually we know how she do stuff on her event. So yeah, that's the only thing that makes me kind of feel a bit unfortunate. They kind of did not do anything impressive when she was introduced to the main cast.
Right. So, like, you mean when the main cast visited her castle in the
Yes.
sky for the first time, right?
Yes, I really love her backstory for her event though. I really love that.
I think the addition of like the sort of quote unquote character quest in part 2 has been really good, for especially for the side characters, because
Yep.
it's pretty easy, especially like in part 1.5. I felt like for like new characters to just suddenly appear for no reason, kind of, and you just kind
That's
of
true.
don't know anything about them. The character quest, especially the pacing of their release, I found it a little bit jarring to have the main story not launch at the same time as the version dropped, because that's just something we're used to in Honkai Impact. Is when
Yeah,
the
and they
Yes.
story
seem
is
like they're doing
before.
that again.
Yeah.
This
Um,
update in CN.
Yeah,
Didn't they do that in part 1.5 too? Chapter 38 came out after the event.
let me think. That's
That would have been like in the middle of Salt Snow, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
remember. that was over a year ago.
I don't remember, but I think
Wait, what event?
there was it was kind of just like a combat event in Salt Snow Holy City, right? Chapter 38.
Yeah. Oh shit! I actually don't remember.
38 would have been the one before the finale, because 39 is the finale. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, Salt Snow. Okay, I thought about Phosphorus for a second there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Anyway, we're getting a little derailed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
To bring things back for a second, I'd like to give everybody a chance to talk about something that they liked in this story chapter, and we'll kind of go down through everybody. We'll go in the reverse order though. So Zuikatsu, you want to talk about something that you did like in this story arc?
Putting me on the spot. I think the main thing that I really enjoyed about the story is that everyone kind of gets involved in a very like meaningful way. Everyone in the cast, that is, all of the seven shrews and the main cast, they're all kind of deeply involved in the plot. I think that builds on their character a lot. Even Helia and Coralie, who I felt like definitely in chapters 1 and 2, were very like observery. They just kind of participated combat wise, but they didn't really contribute to the like pushing forwards the plot or anything. But in chapter 3 and 3EX, it felt like everyone kind of had their place. And I think that's an important thing to carry forwards into the future of part 2, because one of the things that everyone loves about Honkai Impact 3rd in part 1 is that all of the characters are important for the story, and they continue to be important throughout. So that is the main thing that I have enjoyed about, especially the ending of this first kind of little arc here in part 2.
Yeah, I think they really established that they care about this cast. I mean, whether or not they had enough time for everybody, it was already 20 something hours long. So, at least I feel like we could be confident that we'll continue to hear from a lot of these people. I feel good about that. Momon, you want to go ahead and talk about what you liked from this story arc?
Hmm. I like I like most of the parts, but of course I might be this, but I love the Songship. Hold up. Chapter 3, Act 2, if I remember. The part where Songship took us on a somehow date, but during the part during when, hold up. The part where Polima suddenly came in and just dropped like the whole, do you want to be dead or alive? I was like, oh damn.
That had us gagged.
And yeah, exactly. And Entropy was there, like not watching them both, and the tension was actually like, it was really great. I really liked how they played out, especially how Selima like, yeah, she's implying some shit to like, here, let me save you, but like in like the Selima way.
Yeah, I feel like it revealed a lot about her character and her like insecurities, which we hadn't really seen before, and I think defined her
Yeah.
relationship to Songchue in like a new way, with the way she acted through that, and it was interesting and maybe a little intimate. Dreamseeker was really there,
Oh,
like, oh, should I be watching this right now?
Let's go, Song Lina.
That
uh,
third wheeling dream seeker.
Khairz, you want to go ahead and talk about something that you liked from this story arc?
Okay. I might go about the technical side of things because I think we knows that everyone here actually like the story and character, but what I want to praise about part 2 is overall they actually have a good open world. A bit of a hot take here. I actually don't really like APHO's what do you call APHO style of open world. Not APHO 2 though. APHO 2 is actually the improvement, but APHO 1 feels kind of janky and stuff. So what actually the open world itself is what I was expected, what I was expecting. All of improvement here and there, and then there are no reuse asset. That's the important thing, because if we remember back in part 1 and extension to part 1.5, we always have a reuse asset as the
Yeah,
background.
we're always going back to like the same laboratory.
Yeah, okay, before we so we know about the Serapium library, right? I always back when Serapium library, back when Serapium library is released, I joke that Honkai Impact can go like a part 1 route where they put like the asset, the laboratory asset, and just put like bookshelf and make it a library. But then when I see like a whole big library space, I was like, wow, I was so impressive. My jaw was open like a whole 5 minutes before I continue the story. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps the it makes it more memorable to have distinct
Yeah, that's it.
locations. Helps with the immersion for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Immersion. That's the next thing what I want to say. The atmosphere is very immersive. I really like it. From the Osha city, we can actually see the details, the water puddle, and then we can see like the high rise building. We are actually not on the ground. We are actually on the middle of the what do you call in a mezzanine floor, something like that. We are on the high rise building, and then when we enter Langqiu, we are in this like the pre-modern era style of building, corrupted and such. We go to Amber Town. We actually have like a lot of different NPCs this time. Not like one old man, one old woman, and then another not expressive. I really, the NPC is just good. The NPC design is very good.
Yeah, I hope we get to see even more variations on these NPCs when we go to the next region.
That is true. I really can't wait for. I actually cannot wait for the next region, because we saw a lot of if we go back watch the Dun cinematic, the Senarina and the Dreamseeker cinematic, they kinda tease the next area. We have like the greenish island stuff and so on. It just that.
Yeah, maybe we're going to the pink place next.
Yeah, the volcano
Okay.
place.
Yeah, it's
I wish.
exciting. I just don't want them to take too long.
Yep.
Kay, you want to go ahead and talk about something that you liked from this story arc?
Okay, not really sure how much I can say because I'm a guide maker and I usually do not beat the illiterate allegations, but I'm feeling optimistic about how the story is picking up because I frequent the help channels in the official Discord a lot, and some of the complaints that I've seen that isn't related to like gameplay and how like Valkyries aren't reliant on their weapons. Most of the complaints I've seen is about how the earlier parts of the story, like 7.3, 7.4, weren't like engaging, which made a lot of newbies kind of drop the game for a while. So I'm pretty happy that it's picking back up, and hopefully we'll get to see a lot more beginners joining us soon.
Yeah, I think like it definitely we were put in a difficult situation, I think, with the launch of part 2, because for ZZZ, for Star Rail, for Genshin, they all started their first story arc with like the whole story arc and then some. Like imagine if Star Rail came out and all you had was like Herta Space Station and like the first like part of Bellabog to give you an idea of like what the story was going to be like. I think people would have thought it was slow then too, and so that was kind of the difficulty that we ran into with this Langqiu arc, is that people weren't able to do it all in one go, and no one knew where the story was headed. And so it was like, what is all this? So we kind of started in a difficult situation. This is why, at least for me, I felt like maybe it would have been nice to have the entire arc out at once for launch, but you know, that's a development difficulty, which is understandable. And they wanted to
Oh,
tell
yeah,
a big
definitely.
story, so I get it. And I'm just glad to be on this other side of it, where you know, everyone's able to see, oh, so this is what they were planning.
Yeah, Honkai does have a habit of time gating events and new story chapters ever since like part one.
Yeah,
I feel like they probably should have dropped that habit in part two if they wanted to attract more newbies, especially since the way they did it, it was like if they released part one with just chapters 1 to 3 in 1.0.
yeah. I do think
I
that they're in
agree.
a stronger position now. So if they want to do another push for new players in marketing, they can feel a little bit more confident with the community this time. Like discourse was kind of rancid before part two's launch. I think no matter what was going to happen, people were going to have mixed feelings.
I think
Right?
Oh
even
yeah, definitely.
even
A
post
lot of
launch,
people.
there was a lot of, let's say, toxicity about it.
More.
Chapter
I
one
think
and so,
understandable. A lot of
yeah.
people were worried about new things, so I don't blame people for being a bit worried, but I think we can feel a little bit more confident now.
Yeah, I feel mostly it was because a lot of people were attached to the part one cast, and also okay,
Yeah,
I forgot what I was gonna say.
No, you're good. No, that's absolutely true. They did such a good job of making us care about those characters before. So suddenly being like separated for them gives separation anxiety. But I just think it's funny that they couldn't even go one full story arc without our beloved, you know, characters. And I think that was the right play, and they planned for it. So it wasn't something that came out of left field for them
I
to
have
bring the
a
characters back in.
question that I don't
Yeah,
have an answer for it.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you
Go ahead.
think, because we just kind of suddenly had a lot of the part one cast prop up in the
Mhm.
final, let's say chapter 3, chapter 3 EX, um, do you think that was a reaction to the sentiment in after the launch of chapter 1? Because that gives them like maybe 2-3 months to
I
rework
think there's
future chapters.
two. I think it can be two things. Like on one hand, they are making sure that that scene lands really well so that people feel comfortable. I think they're very aware of that. But at the same time, I do think that they were planning for this reveal all along.
Yeah, they
I
did
mean,
mention.
they told us as much right when part 2 released that like, hey, don't worry, these people are coming back, you know.
Chapter
And
one
of
has.
course
Sorry.
in yeah, in chapter 1, a lot of the hints were already there. There was the CG showing specifically Teresa and Kiana, you know,
Right.
right there from the beginning, as well as the strange spaceship that we saw in Dreamseeker when Dreamseeker first like went into the dream that we didn't have an explanation for until this chapter, right?
Right.
So I definitely think that they were always planning for this reveal that, oh my gosh, it is like still a part of the story that we care about. But yeah, like you said, I think they were very anxious to make sure that landed properly. So whatever writing and whatever things they showed in that scene are taking into account the fact that people were desperate to see these characters again. And I think they did a good job. You know, there was a lot of people who were making fun of May for being all angsty about Kiana, right? And
How
I think
dare they?
I think the reaction on social media about like, oh my gosh, May has a reason now shows that they managed to land that emotional impact, which was good. Which was good. Captain Plays, you want to talk about something that you liked from this story arc?
Yeah, I I think like we said, part two really started off on a rough foot with chapter one, but I think I think the writers are quickly finding uh what it takes to make it good. And I really like the mystery of the seven shoes most of all. I like the anecdotes, learning all about them originally. Baiji and Ajito were my favorite, but I just like the mystery of all of them, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think the problem that I feel like the writers came into is they have so many big ideas for the way part 2 is going to go. Huge mysteries. So huge they couldn't even tell the artist team. Right? I was watching the character introduction trailer of Senadina yesterday, the one where they talk about her development. And the art team was like, yeah, IP and writing, they won't tell us anything. So they're keeping things really close to the chest. And I think being so secretive about things probably affected the way that the story was gonna go. But at the same time, they were able to maintain that shock value that came through the later parts of the chapter.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Definitely got
I think they felt a huge burn from it. So maybe they'll learn how to balance writing with their excitement for the mystery a little
I
bit better in the
definitely
future.
got the vibe that they wanted chapter 1 to be this big bang for the start of chapter 2, but part 2, but they failed on almost all accounts.
At least for me personally, I did actually enjoy chapter 1 when I played through it.
Oh, I did too.
It's like a kind of a matter of them figuring out how they're going to manage their pacing with introducing a lot of these mysteries.
I
But the
feel
fact
bad.
to me that I feel like there's a mystery to be had here is good. I think the fact that we felt engaged towards the end meant that there was some substance to this, which I like.
I feel
Yeah, I
bad
think
for Litost, man. Chapter 1 screwed him over.
Yeah, I think the difficulty with Litost is like he was the first of the shoes to have his story arc, but it was before we knew the relationship between like the rest of them, and so it
was
would
even
have been
before we
nice
kind
to
of had a conflict at all
yeah.
in the
And
story.
so his whole story got kind of resolved in a way before we even knew like the nature of it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that we know Litos because of just that. Because I think his character is very very cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I wish we could go back and flesh him out some more, but I guess we're supposed to forget him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he would have wanted it that way.
and he was the one who appeared in the part 2 teaser though.
Yeah, they built him up as this big mysterious guy, but he's just
He's just a guy.
he's just a dude. He's
He's just
just a dude,
he's
and
just a little guy.
He's just a
well,
dead dude.
he has a little guy. I kind of hope that Donagyu gets another moment. I don't know like what they're gonna do with that little dog now, but
I hated that little guy.
I,
oh, I loved
I,
him. He was like a little
wow,
brat.
the polar opposite.
I play on CN Dub, so whenever Donika spoke, it was like a middle-aged or old man just complaining.
Yeah, I thought it was a good lens for the rest of the characters to have him there. Void Archives. You want to talk about something that you liked from this story arc?
Honestly, this might sound like crazy, but my favorite character was Perception. Because like when you
Ooh.
see a flying companion in a gacha game, you think, oh my god, they're going to be so annoying. But she was actually like really entertaining. I liked her especially when she was like about to be found out, because she was like, I am a tool, so just I do what you tell me to do. I really like that because my favorite types of characters are like that. I mean, you can say it.
Yeah.
No, she was fantastic. I really enjoyed her, and especially I was like a bit disappointed that we didn't get to see more of Vegeta, because
Yeah.
she was really intriguing. Like she had this line that was like, those morally driven ideals aren't for me. I was like, oh, crazy ass woman. But we barely saw her.
Let me
So
add, crazy ass hot woman.
yeah. Yeah. No, she's beautiful. I can't wait for her to be playable. She really gets beautiful. I love the amount of detail or her model. When you like put her next to Baiji during their dialogues, and I just look at them and was like, I can see who's the favorite here. It was really
No, actually, I want to talk about that for a second, because yesterday or maybe the day before, I was talking to the other Hyperion Team mod Momo, and we were looking at Black Swan and Ajita, and Ajita actually has more like clothing detail than Black Swan from Honkai Star Rail. I thought that was like, oh, they really like this character.
yeah, that crazy amount of detail. It was like really surprising. I mean, it shows that she's gonna be playable one way or another. But it was funny because Baiji has so much more story relevance / appearances, and she only has like a few cameos. But his model compared to hers is like
so much simpler.
Yeah.
Incredible. You can really see
I
the
think
difference.
that's the point. Like Ajita's gonna become the most important one later down the line, so they kind of like avoided showing her much this arc.
I had a crazy idea back when I was playing through chapter 3. Let me look through my notes here. When we had that flashback to Ajita's conversation with the with perception, quote unquote perception, like the will of the shadow, let's say, when it was still a little baby shadow, she mentioned that she had somehow come into contact with outsiders to Langqiu, and I assume that meant that she had, I don't know how, but she had like contact with someone from like the proper worlds. Let's say, assuming that Langqiu and Oshia City are both part of like the Mars bubble worlds. She had some sort of contact outside of that, and that her goal was to reach this quote unquote continent in the sea. And maybe like just my assumption here. I don't think we have anything confirmed, but I assume that when she mentions the sea, she means the Sea of Quanta. The islands are the bubble worlds, and the continent is the imaginary tree. That was like my interpretation of what she said. And she mentions that she wants to reach the imaginary tree. In her anecdote, we know that Ajita has this like grand plan to split her consciousness into many multitudes of gadgets, and that when all the gadgets are assembled together in one place, her consciousness should reform. That was like her whole idea, and she wants these gadgets to like exist in the world and collect experiences, and then when they all reform, she'll be like a new improved person in a new place. And do we know someone who has been traveling the Sea of Quanta and collecting things and putting them in one place? We do, actually. It's Vita. She's been collecting stuff in her travels and putting them in the museum underneath Phosphorus. Right?
Yep.
So my crazy theory is that somehow, some way, like Vita will meet that kind of like threshold where Ajita's consciousness is assembled enough to reappear, and she'll be in Phosphorus.
Well, Ajita and Vita do rhyme.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good insight.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think since we're talking about characters, I appreciate Aja that you brought up Perception. I think Perception is such an interesting boss character. First off, the fact that they used Kiana's voice actress again from the Chinese to voice Perception, and Ajita as for a matter. I think it's interesting. Kiana's was like our main character. We love her, and then the very first boss of part 2 used her same voice. I thought that was kind of poetic.
Definitely a little bit ominous.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I found interesting about Perception is that in some ways she kind of never got the chance to be accepted by people. I mean, from the very beginning, I guess she was kind of a monster, but you could tell on some level she was a bit annoyed that people didn't respect her when she gained a body after the rite of shaping. She almost quotes Senadina when she was just like, "Where's the welcome party for me?" That she says like when she first wakes up, and she initially goes to Donagyu, just talking to him about like I can be like a benevolent god or something like that. And I think it's interesting that she at least wanted to play up that pretense for a minute, and she seemed a bit upset that people didn't respect her.
Yeah, she reminded me of like the Hershker of Corruption from the Elysian Realm arc. Because she's born and she's just like, I want to live. And then her nature as a Hershker makes her evil. But like if you manage to take that out, if you manage to like teach them, you don't actually have to kill everybody, They can be benevolent. It's just that they never had the chance to be because they're you get it.
Yeah, and I guess the point was that she wasn't willing to change. She just knew she was upset, right?
Mhm.
And I think since you bring up the Hersher of Corruption thing, I kept thinking about the way Hersher of Corruption talks to Elysian is just like, I just think you're beautiful, right? And it was so similar to Perception in Songchue, because
Yeah.
she always considers Songchue to be her other half, right? And that they would, do things together, basically, and she willingly took on the form of Songchue, and so I thought it was a good reflection of the Hersher corruption, and kind of on that note of Perception. Yeah, I'll kind of leave it up to anyone to talk about what their thoughts are on that.
Now that you said about this, I'm kind of upset that I did not notice about that from Perception before. It's kind of sad actually. I just have probably I have to go back and watch every now that I know her, now that you explain how Perception's working, right? I have to go back and watch all the story, not all, probably like every time where Perception is on the screen. I'm just gonna dig into her a little bit more, because before what do you call, oh god, I forgot the term. Yeah, before her reveal as a Wheel of Shadow, right? I only expect her, as a side character that just add something that the main cast didn't have an idea on. So yeah, that's all about it. I can think of Perception.
I think the interesting thing that MiHoYo does throughout the franchise, let's say, is they introduce characters that are like kind of surface level, very similar. I think in my head, sentience, corruption, and the Will of Shadow Perception are all kind of this newborn, very powerful entity. They have some world knowledge, but ultimately it's like they just like can't be accepted. But then they explore different paths to get to whatever the conclusion of the story might be. In Sentience's case, she was the people around her slowly came to accept her, but not so in the case of corruption and and obviously the Will of the Shadow, because in these two cases, I think corruption was a little bit less, how do I say it, agreeable than the other two. And the Will of the Shadow is quite literally the like the physical manifestation of everything that Langqiu needs to get rid of. So it's almost like an unfortunate necessity that they have to get rid of her.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because in the case of Corruption, she had kind of this selfish love that she had for everybody, right? She wanted to take these people and put them up on a shelf, She's like, you're so interesting. I want you to forever, despite like everything that they wanted. And in the same way, the Shadow Perception was very similar. That she wanted to dominate people. She wanted to be the one who was responsible for giving their due. She wanted to rule over like the world, right? Which is like in complete opposition to the perspective of Songchue, where she wanted to serve the people, right?
Mm.
So I want to talk about some of the other characters, since we're kind of getting into a character discussion now. And first, I want to talk about actually Entropy, our main character, our
Dream
player character.
Seeker.
Yeah, let's talk about the Dream Seeker first. And we'll go down from the top. Just some of your thoughts on Dream Seeker, back in reverse order from how we did last time. So, Void Archives, you have any thoughts about Dream Seeker?
Dream Seeker like subverted my expectations for her, because I remember when the trailer dropped for part 2, everyone thought, oh my god, she's going to be the silent MC, she's going to be so bad. But I actually enjoyed her. Like I didn't think that of her. I tried not to be too negative, and she was actually quite good. I especially enjoy her relationship with Senadina, especially in the latest chapter, because it's very clear that she cares for her, and Senadina does the same. One thing I like about Dream Seeker, not as a character written, is about her design, that she has glasses, because I can't think of any other character in Honkai Impact that's playable per se and has glasses. Like I think she's the only one.
since Fuhua, but Fuhua doesn't even wear her glasses anymore.
So yeah, that's one thing I really appreciate about her. But not much else. Like she didn't have too much character development. I didn't really see that out of her. I hope she will, because she's clearly going to be caught up in some important stuff now. But as of now, she says kind of like, "You're alright. I enjoy you." That's about it.
Yeah, I think in the interlude chapter, in chapter 3 EX, they finally started really defining, like, look, this is a character who has her own feelings, and it's very exciting going forward. Captain Plays, you want to talk about what your thoughts on the Dream Seeker?
I really like her power, and I'm looking forward to how it's gonna be expanded upon in future arcs. What kind of disasters is she gonna stop next? It's also clear that the next arcs are gonna deal with some existentialism with her, and that's both parts terrifying and great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that discussion that she had in her mind. I think just the very fact that she had a moment to really reflect on her feelings was really important in defining her as a character, and the way that she was able to talk about all these experiences that I had, like, even if they're digital, like they were real to me. So don't they have value? And I think I appreciated how she reflected on the entire journey that she had gone on so far. That she quoted Sangchue talking about, don't I have a beautiful, even unreal past written on the golden leaf? She's like, she was thinking a lot about the way that Sangchue felt there. And then she was like, wait a second, me too. Like, I also wish that I had, like, a happy story for myself. And I thought that was beautiful, the way that she was really reflecting on things. Kay, do you want to go ahead and talk about your thoughts about the Dream Seeker?
Oh yeah, sure. I think the thing I like most about them is the fact that they kind of play more of a role of the observer than someone who is like front and center in the story. Kind of lets like the other characters, how do I say this? Kind of lets the other characters shine and doesn't take that much screen time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you compare Dream Seeker to a lot of the well, maybe not so much Bell and Wise, but like to some of the other Hoyo main characters. She isn't even a combatant, right? She's not someone who can get things done herself physically. All she can do is kind of lead the group and be their voice in a lot of cases, and so I think it's interesting to have her narratively as like a support character. And watching like all of her friends doing things from like an external angle, I do think because of that, it kind of, because of her role as like a leader and supporting people, it makes it so when she's like taken away from them in chapter 3 EX, that she feels responsible for the group. She feels like, I care about these people and I want them to be happy. And it's a good stand-in for the player, just like wanting to make sure that all of her friends make it out safe in these situations. Khairz, you want to go ahead and talk about your thoughts about the Dreamseeker?
I don't have any much to add. I just want to say that I actually glad that she's properly voiced. Because from what I see from Genshin and Honkai Star Rail, still have a voice, but not all the time. And I'm actually kind of feel okay that yeah, she like what Archive said, subvert our expectation. Also, I want to touch on the details. Every time so basically, if you play any other game that have characters wearing glasses, right? You always you never see them adjusting their glass like how anime character do it. And actually kind of impressed that they actually put that detail on and make her glass, flip upside down and not just a static there. And yeah, I also have one concern, just one concern. That it's not very important. It's just my selfishness. I'm asking for actual battle suit, even though she's not a fighter type. Also, skin and stuff. You know what? She can be a good character design that can have a battle suit. That's all.
Well, I hope so too. Personally, I'd like to see the day where she can, fight alongside the rest of her friends.
Yeah,
I
actually
think
playable.
I think that would be very satisfying.
Yeah.
Momon, do you want to go ahead and talk about your thoughts about Dreamseeker?
All right. Void Archives actually mentioned most of the things I like about her. Um, she's actually also one of the reasons why I picked up Part 2 again. I promised myself not to continue Honkai when Part 2 got released, and then I saw the cutscene of like Dreamseeker and question mark Senadina, and I was like, oh, turns out she's more than a stalking ship, you know? And she's just a little girl. She's just a normal college student struggling on deadline. She's just like me for real. Yeah, but other than that, I really wanted to see more how will the story progress, especially since the EX chapter. I feel like he's gonna be more important in the next few bubble universes, and just like what Kyle said, I really wish for a battle suit of hers.
Seems like we all feel that way.
Yep, we're wishing the same.
Yeah, I think you bring up that she's just like a normal student, and Void Archives. You also brought up the fact that she wears glasses. A lot of us have talked about how she reminds us of Homura from Madoka Magica. Like that she starts out kind of as this very, very normal student type person, and then through repeated tragedy, she wants to like resolve that, and I think we'll see Dreamseeker evolving as a character similar to Homura. I don't think she's going to go down necessarily, a villain.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she will. Who knows? And
I mean,
for this reason, I feel like Dreamseeker is a lot like May in the story arc. He embodies a lot of that same concern and the quiet, like, sort of discontent with the situation that May had. So I'm just really excited to see how she develops. Zuikatsu, you want to talk about your insights into Dreamseeker?
I kind of wasn't really hooked by her in chapters 1 and 2. I think she was very observery, even more so than Helia and Coralie, which I had some complaints about. But in chapter 3 and 3EX, I think she really came into her own as a character. Like first her interactions with Songchue in chapter 3 and Langqiu, and then also in 3EX, just kind of she's like, it's almost like we're finding out about her at the same time she's finding out about herself. It's like her true nature, as this kind of, or maybe her true like situation where she's been in this simulation and she's been like looped countless times by Vita. Um, and I think a really poignant way to put it, like the very current state of like what she means to the story is, where is it? I wrote it down. Like what is the dream that she is seeking? Because she has his name, right? Like, and she's not sure what what her end goal or what her kind of like her fate is, let's say. And she's trying to find out what reality means to her and what she means to reality. Now that she knows that that whole experience that she had wasn't really real. But I think it's going to be really, really interesting going forwards to see her kind of develop as a character and try to figure out her place in the story.
Yeah, I think about this one dialogue that she has in the middle of chapter 2, actually, where this is the moment after Helia, Corley, and Senadina have been captured by Union, and she's hiding out with Songchue from Lantern, who's trying to kill them. And Songchue is just like, man, if we were in a situation like this, like he'd make me scrub floors or something. And then Dreamseeker has like this little dialogue that I thought was strangely sentimental. She says, like, if all I had to do was scrub toilets all day, I'd do it, in a second to save Senadina and the others. And I don't know, like it's a little bit goofy, but like I thought that was interesting that she was like, I'll do whatever it takes to bring him home. If it's something just as simple as that, like I would do it in a heartbeat. And it was like, it was such a strong statement for her to make when she had just met everybody else. But now knowing that she had had a longer term relationship with them in this loop, I think redefines like that whole dialogue. That somewhere like deep inside of her, she's really been trying her best for these people, and she's retained like that feeling that she cares about them like a lot.
Ooh, yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. And then
she doesn't really have the memories of anything, but there's
she,
definitely like a sentiment there. Yeah.
Yeah, she has like a feeling like I need to take this seriously, And there's all there. Speaking of that, there's all sorts of cryptic dialogue all throughout chapter 1 and 2 that they're totally throwaway, and the story arc is so long that you'll forget about them. But it says something along the lines of, for some reason, like everything seems to be going according to plan, and then at the end of the world, like Dreamseeker will know the reason for this. It says that like in the middle of chapter 2. It's like that meant nothing to us at the time, but now it's like very clear why that is,
Yeah, and I think that also, I don't know if I'm derailing here, but that also points towards Chunxue as some sort of weird, like non-samsara character. She's like definitely came across as not just another NPC in the loop, because of how she talked about the Dreamseeker.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. There's that letter that Chenchua gives you when you first reach the box of memories in time that talks about how she knows that the Dreamseeker is going to have a lot of failure, but to still keep striving forward. She says, fly, Dreamseeker, to the highest you can go, or something like that. And so she seems to be aware that things are not going to go well. Which makes it so interesting that this chapter ended with her seemingly not remembering the Dreamseeker or being completely out of it. So
that letter gave me kind of Himiko vibes, and I'm very upset.
yeah, and in a lot of ways, Chenchua is like a Himiko type character, right? Not necessarily like she serves a very similar role in the narrative.
Ooh, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. So
And be the final lesson.
yeah,
No.
actually, you bring up the word final lesson, and it's something that she reflects in that letter that she gives to the Dream Seeker. She says, "This is your first lesson to learn to learn to fly."
Oh, I hate that.
Oh,
Yeah.
what
I
is
hate
this,
that.
man?
To me, I think it's kind of really immersive the way that they use letters in books to
Yeah.
build up the narrative. And of course, the story isn't necessary. Like, you don't have to read these letters, but if you do read the books and letters, I think it gives a whole lot of emotional depth to the scenes. Like, I want to talk about the Princess of Stars story that Songchue gives, and I don't know who took the time to read through it, but at least for me, when I read through the Princess of Stars story, I got pretty emotional. I was like, wow, you can get a really good view of like the way Songchue feels about herself. The Princess of Stars story talks a whole lot about wanting to help humanity. That was the wish of the White Star, right? But the Black Star tells her you can only help one person, or like, there's so many people out in the world, you can just try to help one person. And then the White Star leaves her crown behind and goes and visits this one girl and says, let me read here. It says, the girl was amazed. She gazed at the stone, the White Star, which shimmered faintly, and pleaded hopefully, if you really are a star, please give me some more time. I haven't figured out my wish yet. Which, someone brought up that the dream seeker is still seeking their dream. They don't know what their dream is, right? And then the White Star smiles and says, it's okay. I'm the star that came for you. When you figure out your wish, come back here and call my name. Just this idea, like you could imagine the feeling of the dream seeker reading the White Star or the Princess of Stars story and inserting herself in as like, I'm that person who has the wish that doesn't know what to say. And then Songchue wanting so badly to be the White Star, but she felt like she couldn't be that person, right? Until Baiji was able to convince her otherwise, or everybody was able to convince her otherwise. Anyway, I'm getting kind of off the point. My point was, I just really like the way that they use the books, the letters, to immerse you into the emotion of these scenes. I think that it gives it a level of flavor to like know that these texts mean something to the characters as well.
I think another like kind of nice thing about contextualizing the characters using the play is that you can get to see how different people view each other very, very differently. Because Songchue considers herself to be the Black Star, but Baiji doesn't. Baiji considers to be the White Star, and it's just kind of proof that people are so much more than the characters that they are in the play, right? They can be both. Songchue can be both.
Yeah, and I think she actually shows off that duality in her battlesuit, because it's constantly shifting between like white and black. There's like sphere that's on her chest, and she had, of course, she embodies this whole idea of like shadows and light in a lot of what she does, and I think let's turn this into a conversation about Songchue since we're on the topic. That Songchue is a character who's very, very nuanced. She's not just, she doesn't consider herself to be, the greatest person ever. The dialogue that she has with like the little leaf shows that she feels very insecure about herself, and that she's imperfect, that she's done bad things in her own way. So is she worthy of like good things in her life? So I think last off we left off with Zuikatsu, right? So we'll start with you again just to talk about Songchue.
Yeah, I mean, so part of this is because I play in the CN dub, but Songchue I think felt so relatable as a human being, not as a character in a video game, not as a a hero of the story, but just as a human being, because you listen to her and see her go through the kind of like troubles of everyday life, and she's always kind of insecure about herself, and she's trying to put on this face, a different face depending on who she's with. Like when she's with Thelema, she's very different. When she's with Baiji, she's very different. When she's with the main cast of part 2, she's a third different face. And I think someone mentioned to me, I don't remember where or who it was, but they said Songxue should have just been the main character of part 2. Like, you should play in her perspective. And I think that's not actually true, because I think a lot of what makes her a really, really strong character, probably the strongest character narrative-wise of the entire arc, is that you don't see her internal thoughts. You see the faces that she puts on for everyone else. And I think that just makes her super interesting as a character.
Yeah, I kind of like that, actually, that you put it that way. I think it reflects her role as the shoe of deception, or at least her own interpretation of it, right? That she shows herself in different ways to people. That's part of her deception, you know? But then always leaving people with like a positive impression. You know, her whole character is predicated on this idea that she's going to deceive people to have hope, you know, in the face of tragedy. And I think it puts her right next to, you know, every other great Honkai third character who believed in like the power of, I'm going to be cheesy, but the power of love, right? And love and hope. Like, Songxue is I think in my mind worthy to be a part of the Honkai cast from what she showed us. Momon, you want to go ahead and give your thoughts on Songxue?
I really think that too. Songxue is like, she slightly reminded me of Alicia, how she wanted humanity for the better. Except it's like she used the power of deception instead, to deceive people. So yeah, so people can look at the positive side of humanity. Well, and I I I actually like the kind of broke down during the part where she told a little bit about her backstory, um how the orphanage treats her like roughly, especially during the stage scene. They like, the lights definitely didn't turn off by accident, and yeah, I was speechless back then. I screenshot the whole dialogue.
I got really emotional at that moment. I don't know, it just spoke to me. Just that she felt, you know, this is the moment that really defined her, and she was, you know, in a lot of ways she was traumatized by it for the rest of her life, right? And then the moment afterwards that she talks about how the Dream Seeker and her friends still showed up for her, and how much that it meant for her that, you know, they were there in that moment for her. I thought that was really poignant and beautiful. There's, you know, that very simple line, that people are willing to see her even without a stage and a dress. Oh, that ruined me. I was like upset for like a good 5 minutes, you know. what a powerful piece of writing, I think. Khairz, you want to go ahead and talk about your thoughts on Songxue?
Yeah. I actually interested in her original name. I mean, is it? Do we agree that her original name is actually Maria, or is it just, you know, her being just
I think it was genuine. I think that
it's genuine,
genuinely
right?
was her real name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually kind of want to know where her where she actually came from before she went to the orphanage. And then she's the only character in Part 2 that have 3 different outfits.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they gave her
I hope
rags and
yeah.
everything.
I hope that the Rex outfit actually comes out. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I actually think they're
Yeah.
kind of stylish, even for rags.
Oh, yeah, that is very stylish. It's like the street clothes, but the cheap one that you can get on the
Yeah.
supermarket.
It's still kind of nice, I gotta say. They're still kind
Yeah.
of nice.
Other than that,
Actually-
I think Zuikatsu and Momon already said enough about Songche that I won't say. And yeah, that's all
Yeah,
about it.
something you bring up her name, and I actually had some insights into her name. Her name Songchui is like a Chinese name for the species of bird called the pine grosbeak. Other people will call her like a sparrow, a pine sparrow. Something I find interesting about the pine grosbeak is that it isn't native to China as a bird, even though it has a Chinese name. It's something that was introduced as a species from European countries, actually, from Russia and the global north. So I think, in a way, they were hiding her whole backstory in her name. Just this idea of like this outsider bird who came into this Chinese type region. I thought that was really interesting. And there's a whole lot of meaning with their names as well. I made a Twitter post about Maria, her real name, meaning coming from Hebrew for bitter or beloved, Miriam, but it can also be interpreted as star of the sea, and so in a way she's also a star in her name. So I thought it was very intentional the way that they chose all of the names for a lot of the characters, and especially for Songchui. Kay, do you want to talk about your thoughts?
I don't really have much to add, but I do want to talk about like her kid. You mentioned Sparrow just now, and I was looking at my guide, shame self plug, but one of the shadow frames that she summons is called Sparrow playing with Paul. I don't know if that symbolizes anything, but I just thought it would be interesting to point out. I do like the fact that she hides behind a screen whenever she like casts her stellar outburst. I feel like it kind of represents how she changes faces whenever she interacts with different people.
That is a good like way to put it. Just the changing, actually. It's like spicy, but it also has like a lot of meaning to her as a character.
I've seen a lot of people complaining about like the fan servicey aspect of it. Like I mentioned earlier, I frequent the help channels, and a lot of them don't really like it that much.
I suppose you can have all sorts of opinions on it. At the end of the day, for a lot of us veteran players, we've seen it all at this point, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's nothing too
That's true.
too out of the ordinary for us, at least. But yeah. Captain Plays, you want to talk about your thoughts on Songchui and what you might like about her?
I don't really have any more thoughts than all of you. All of you have, like, such deep philosophical things to say about her, and I didn't get any of that crap when I was playing. I just saw her at surface level, and that's it. So I don't really have any thoughts.
That's all right. I think I've had a whole lot of time to think about this, so I think she's a very nuanced character, and in a lot of ways, like the characters describe her, she's ordinary, right? So if you and actually, I do think it's interesting that she kind of comes out of nowhere as like the focus of the story arc, right? Just to us in the beginning, she was just an NPC. She was just the astral op, like not even a playable character. Like she was just supposed to show us everything. So for her to suddenly come right in the center of the narrative in a way, at least to me, was like a surprise that I was very happy about because I liked Sangtra from the beginning, but it did kind of come out of left field.
Yeah, to me, it kind of took me out of it. I did kind of get annoyed by her a bit.
Well, I think everyone can have the characters that they like and dislike, but I like her.
Yeah,
Void
you do
Archivist.
you. The beauty of being human. We all have different opinions.
Yeah, Void Archivist. You want to talk about your thoughts on Sangtra?
Like Zuikatsu said, I also like that she felt like a really grounded character in reality because with Honkai Impact, you get used to the characters having like these insane lives, insane backstory, like the whole Kazlana family being super powered people. That's insane stuff. But Sancho is just like foster care girl that grew up to become much more, and I really like that about her. I really did enjoy it, especially because her backstory is. It was good. I wished it had been like exposed better because it's like you get to know her, they tell you her backstory, and then they go on with the rest of it. So it's like, give me time to process that. What the fuck just happened? What the fuck? It's not like an extremely tragic backstory, but it is a really sad story that does happen in real life. So it's like they're damn. And they didn't really let me breathe after that. The chapter was just go through this and then do that and then do that. It's oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of
Oh my
funny
god.
because like a lot of the complaints about chapter 1 and chapter 2 is that the pacing is really slow, that they take a lot of time going through things, and then suddenly chapter 3 is like revelation after
Yeah.
revelation. It's like
Yeah.
so fast emotionally.
It's so slow. You take hours to go through it. And they drop so much information that, like, even when you have hours to process it, like, you forget it in like 5 minutes because while you're processing it, they gave you more. Like, please,
I definitely, I think you were in a difficult situation because I remember you had to catch up, right? So
yeah, and
like,
with the first chapters, I played them like as soon as they released. Then I took a break, so I had to catch up on. I was late on Telema, and after Telema, I stopped playing, so I had to catch up after that. And I was there like, what the hell is happening? Especially because Telema has this like part of an event where you have to do puzzles, and you have to do them for like 2 hours. I was like, I don't want to do this.
it's like I want to get to the end of the story.
It was crazy because doing those puzzles like revealed some things about Telema's character, and I really liked Telema. But the fact that I had to do like 2 hours of mundane puzzles is like, why?
Yeah, it kind of wasn't good for the pacing.
Yeah, no. It was
I felt the
absolutely.
same way. Admittedly, I kind of felt the same way too. That was a point when that released when I was like losing my interest, but I was glad to be able to get it back here in the end. So yeah, it's a lot of story, guys. It's like 25 hours to get through everything in the story arc, including the Thelema event. Like, ugh. Congrats to everyone who got it done and was able to come here for this conversation. It's kind of an ordeal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Wasn't the latest chapter 3 7.5 hours or something?
something along those lines. It really varies based on the person, but I just kind of estimate it around 7-ish or so. So that's why at least to me, if you're a streamer streaming this game, like you don't have to sit there and listen to everybody's dialogue. Like read at your pace and get it done because it's a lot.
And for me, the chapter 3 EX is it's a bit short. I mean, we've been so used to having like a long chapter that takes time, but then I actually managed to finish chapter 3EX in one night. I mean, 2 night because
Yeah,
it have
same
like
here.
two different, right? It have
Yeah,
like
same
two
here.
different. It just feel like, wow, wait, I actually finished this. And
Yeah.
because I think because chapter 3x itself, it doesn't have like, what do you call, information dump. It's just straightforward. We know about this, we know about that. I mean, yeah, sure, chapter 1 and 2 can be a bit, people don't like it because it's slow. But then when chapter 3 and 3x comes out, we actually know what's actually happening, because we have to sit through that chapter 1 and 2, and chapter
Yeah.
3 and 3x makes it worth it.
Yeah. I think ultimately, while they probably could have, cut a lot of the fluff in those chapters, they did ultimately establish a good foundation to build off of, so that chapter 3 and EX were like very satisfying, or at least I would say most people felt satisfied through it.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
I played the chapter 3 in parts. You know how it's like segmented with the song CG, and I played it in parts because I didn't have the time to do it like in one day. So today I played the last part. That was like the big reveal, and it was so short and so brief. So I was like, what?
I was like, I want
That's
more.
it?
Like I'm like suddenly so interested. Like where's the rest
No,
of my
yeah,
story?
I swear, because like I was getting so bored with the chapters before that. They took so long. There was so much information, just too much. And then
Yeah.
I finally get to this, and like, this is so cool. I can't wait to see. It's over. It was
That's the
kind of
classic
like
Honkai
that.
cliffhanger. Yeah, I think it sets things up in such an interesting way. And actually, since you're mentioning now Chapter 3 EX, I want to talk about Senadina. Supposedly our main character.
Who?
Who?
Yeah, who is she? I've never heard of her before. Let's talk about Senadina and the impression that she left with us. I'll start with you, Void Archive, since you just finished the chapter.
I love Sinadina. I loved her like since day one. Everybody was hating her because she looked too much like Elisa. She can never be like. She's beautiful. I love her. She's a beautiful. No, really did enjoy her character. Even if she doesn't have like too much depth, I think she has like that kind of optimism to the story that's kind of needed, considering how heavy it gets sometimes. I really did enjoy her, and I'm really interested to see where she'll go, because we have like the introduction to Goddess, and it's like, I am billion of years old and I'm the cocoon of finality. I'm giving you my clone. See you. Bye. It's like, what?
Yeah, she has so many big mysteries, and she seems so interesting as a character. But I think I really enjoy how she is also very earnest and very straightforward. Like you bring up how kind she is, and I love that scene where she's drawing the picture of everybody, and in her moment that she's away from the dream seeker and she doesn't have to like put on a face, she's crying thinking about Songchu's death. At least at that time, she thought she died, right? And that you like on the CG of the drawing, you can see her tears on the ground, and you can see that she was deeply upset by things. But at the same time, she feels responsible to be the smiling person, to have a happy face, and it kind of makes her a lot more nuanced, knowing that she knows she has to be the emotional backbone of the team.
Yeah, I really liked how like the cast contrast each other very well. Like they contrast and complement each other, because you have Coralie was very aloof and like direct with her words. Helia was, honestly, I can't say much about her, but I like the sort of rivalry she has going on with Coralie. It's cute. And there's Senadina and Dreamseeker, who, like, Senadina is perfect. She's perfect. I love her. She does need, like, some more development, but I really like her as is. And I'm sure we'll see more of her, because this whole, who the hell is Senadina thing's like, what?
Yeah, they at least Senadina, Coralie, all of them like have, I think, a good healthy relationship with each other. Not like not the so strong because they've only known each other for so long, but they have a good chemistry between them that I think is really nice to see. And on the topic of Helia, before I don't want to derail too much, but I do think Helia is a character who has a lot of insecurity, especially compared to Corley, Senadina, who have strong personalities. Helia is a lot more serious and reserved, and I kind of hope that they focus in on that insecurity that she has for the future. I'm glad that she's a main character so that we can feel assured that eventually she'll get her time, right? Captain Plays, you want to talk about your thoughts on Senadina?
Yeah, the goddess version of her, I really enjoyed. She seems to be a very important character for the future, and I'm looking forward to that. The clone version of her reminded me of First Arc Kiana, but actually smart. I remember this one time in the Thelema event when we found out that Sanchi wears her clothes, and I thought that was going to be more important. And when we got out of the box of memories in time, I was like, "Is anybody gonna mention Sanchi's clothes are made by Thelema?" Senadina was the first one to do that, and I'm like, "Oh, we're on the same page! Hell yeah!"
Yeah, I think I like that about Songcha is that she's very attentive. She's very present in every situation that she's in. She's not like, happy-go-lucky, waiting for things to fall into her lap. She's a very proactive character, which sets her apart from a lot of the other types of characters who are like her, And I like that. It shows how much she genuinely cares, even if she doesn't really know a lot,
Yeah. I do also love her bubbly, airheaded, stupid moments.
Yes, it's very endearing. Kay, you want to talk about your thoughts on Songcha? Or it's not Songcha, Senadina.
I was okay. I'm gonna talk about the clone one mostly because when I first saw the character trailer for her, I expected her to be more of a kind of content creator character because of how she asked the Dream Seeker if they made a video of her jumping from the train, would it be popular? So I definitely wasn't expecting her to be like, how do I say this properly?
Like, it's emotional. You good? Oh, I think we lost
Did we
him.
lose him?
I think we lost him.
I think we lost him. I think we lost him.
If you come back, you come back.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Oh my god.
We lost you for a second. Yeah, you wanted to finish your thought? Okay. I don't know if your mic is disconnected or something, or if you're having connection issues, but you can always come back. We'll come back to you if your mic comes back on. Khairz, you want to go ahead and give your thoughts on Senadina?
Senadina is one, if Senadina is one of the character that you want as a friend. Not necessarily like a usual friend, a close friend, right? Because from what I can see, she's so random and silly, and she's one of the, if Senadina is in your circle, right, in your friend circle, she's the one that that will turn the mood, the negative mood, the sour atmosphere into positive, and people and your other friend will like her for it because she do it in a way that doesn't offend anyone, that doesn't touch on anyone sensitivity. Is that the correct word? I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm just want to say, she just silly because I also like the way that they portray her. She always doing a random stuff at the back when other people are talking. other people in the focus, and then we saw her going away buying some food. We saw her going away, touch the anchor of Apocalypse and stuff like that. I really liked it about her.
Yeah, I think she's the kind of character who's constantly pushing things forward, even if she doesn't intend to. You know, she's keeping like the narrative going, which is very good for her character.
Yeah, that's true.
She's very 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 endearing. So I'm excited to see more of her. Momon, you want to go ahead and give your thoughts, Insina?
This time I'm going more slightly deep on her like development. I really like the part. I think it was chapter 2 where we were in Lena's place. Uh, Senadina was fighting Lantern, and she managed to use the astral ring far longer than she usually would. Um, I, I was confused at first. Does it have to do something with the Lord or uh I don't know. And then chapter 3 was kind of passive, including Sanabina, except for that one scene where she is slowly corrupting after the like from the side effects of the overused astral ring effects. I'm starting to think that I don't know, maybe he is the embodiment of the astral ring. I uh I was doubting myself though. And then here comes like the EX chapter. Yeah. EX chapter, well, hi. I'm still here.
Yeah, I love
I thought
an
I
impression.
yeah. I I thought everything's going smoothly and then suddenly everyone forgets about Katarina. Or she's not even in the data logs or anything. Except like only Dreamseeker remembers her. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, that moment is like so devastating to the dream seeker, and especially when they start remembering even more memories afterwards. Like, wow, Senna wasn't just someone I met right now, but I have deep memories and a connection with. And then for all of that to be taken away right at the moment when they were supposed to be like happy, right? It's like chapter 3
Oh,
EX's big revelation happens at like the peak of like a happy ending, which is why it's so upsetting in a lot of ways to Entropy, you know?
yeah, it's kind of like Madohomo, like 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah, Madahomu very much.
Classic Honkai, they
uh,
strip the happiness away right when
yeah,
it's at its peak.
the contrast. Zuikatsu, you want to give your thoughts on Senna?
From the very beginning of part 2, I always expected her to be the like comic relief character, um, because she's just kind of this like a little bit airheaded, always doing her own thing. And I will agree with Khairz how it's so endearing to see her like just like off in the background during conversations, like doing random crap in the background. Um, but I think for me at least, Coralie took that role for what it's worth. Coralie became the comic relief character. But Senadina, I think the main thing that stood out to me, especially with Chapter 3 EX so fresh in my mind, is this concept that I believe May brought up while they were talking on the moon with Entropy, is that she's this sort of like higher administrator user in this whole like Mars quantum computer concept, where she can selectively like erase memories from everyone other than Entropy. And I think another thing that stood out to me was when they said like it'd be a lot easier to manipulate the memories of one person than to wipe the memories of everyone else. Um, whether that's true or not, I don't think anyone can say, right? It's not a thing that we deal with in the real world. Um, but I think I especially with her dance scene at the beginning of part 2 and now this kind of revelation that she might be this higher power on Mars. We already kind of knew that, given her role as the Cocoon of Unwoven, but the fact that she's taking such an active role, let's say, in the story now, I think is very interesting. And for the future of part 2, I think, again, we're just kind of building Dreamseeker, the main character, into her own character here, because she's suddenly this person who has a very, very special connection to someone who's very important to Mars.
Yeah, she's like, I really loved the way the end of this story arc recentered all of our main characters and put them, like, gave us context for why they're so important to this world, you know. And I don't know, it leaves us with so much interest for the future, and I think we're all feeling good about that. And on that note, let's have one last round of question for everybody, just about what would you like to see for the future of part 2. I know we just left off on you, Zuikatsu, but you want to give your last thoughts on
Sure.
what you'd like to see?
Definitely, one thing that I hope they can somehow incorporate is to not just toss the 7 shoes aside, because these are 7 great characters. They've all done important things for the development of the arc. I think, in particular, I think Thelema has been a standout for me. Maybe a little bit biased because I absolutely love her design and her voice acting, but she's definitely also, I think, a little bit more developed as a character than the other shoes. But I would very much hope that these characters don't just disappear like Genshin / Starvale-esque, where we move on to the next world, and then the 7 shoes are suddenly not part of the story anymore. I hope that doesn't happen. And the other thing that I think they are already doing in chapters 3 and 3EX is really making the characters important in the story. Like I said at the very beginning, when we started recording this episode, I think that's one thing that they've done really well at the end of the arc.
Mm-hmm. Right, like it's at the end of the day, the narrative is very focused on this tight core cast, and I
Yes.
think that's really good. Momon, you want to give your last thoughts on what you'd like to see?
I was kind of wondering how are they like what is like Vita's Ichan's purpose in the current arc, the current like part 2. It got me all uh kind of jumbled up. How they just like to appear, like reappear all of a sudden and like in the middle of like the chapters, and yeah, I think I think that's it.
Yeah, we all want to know. I'm so glad that they actually didn't wait too long to bring Vita in. You know, they could have kept Vita like to be super mysterious for like the rest of the story. You know, then they kind of do that for, you know, some of their other games. But no, Vita is right there in the middle of things now.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's very
expected her to show up in part 2, chapter 10. Originally, I thought she was going to be a super deep into part 2, but no.
Yeah, they did not wait, which I think I was glad about, and we all
Oh.
I think we all find Vita really interesting. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also
Oh,
fitting
one more.
as a character
yeah.
because she's very hands-on. Let's
Yeah,
say.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Momon, you had one last thought?
Maybe. Oh yeah. Kind of like Zuikatsu's wish, but it's a different character. I need Saw. I need Saw right now.
Saw?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's get a follow up on that story. Khairz, you want to go ahead and say your last thoughts on what you want to see with the story?
Right. So I hope. Okay. So when I talk about the technical aspect of the open world, right, I hope in the future and the next region also, I hope the dev don't get too comfortable with how the open world works. Now we see that the Langqiu, the Oxia City is the open world aspect is pretty good, right? So I don't want the dev kind of water down the quality, and then we going back to the reuse asset and so on. because I'm pretty sure they will use the Sea of Data quiet frequently from now on, because that's where the stuff happen. And another one, the last one, I hope they bring in the part 1 cast back, but not like force them into it. It just let them happen naturally, because I think I remember this. They said like the part 1 cast will eventually be in the part 2 story. Also, it's just an excuse for me to see the Durandal new battle suit. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's very healthy for Honkai to have new characters. We were like feeling that burn a little bit in part 1.5, where there was like nobody new coming around. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
there's like Vita, but like
and the little Vitas.
yeah, it's like every single character that released for like a good year or so was like old characters, which I mean I love those characters, and I was glad to see them more, but I think it's nice to have new faces every once in a while, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad to have the part 2 cast to bring like new perspectives to the Honkai story and have them go through their own story arcs, So I think there's I hope they strike that good balance between new and old that will satisfy everybody.
Yeah, I also hope the part 1 character don't steal the spotlight from the part 2
Right.
character, because it's all about the part 2 characters, yes, but just part 1 character is there for the for the support, for the backup and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd like to see the part 1 characters continue to grow in their own way, and I'd also like to see the part 2 characters grow and have their happy endings too one day.
Yeah. Yep.
Kay, you want to give your last thoughts?
I really don't want them to go back to like the first like moments of part 2, where they were just world building with the new areas, because we're going into another new area soon, right? And obviously they will have to give some background info on like what it's like there. But I really hope it isn't just the entirety of like the first couple chapters that were in the.
Yeah, I think we can only hope, right? But at the very least, I think they've heard very, very loud and clear the way people feel about the story or felt about the story during that time. So let's hope they take that seriously going forward to make sure that it's accessible to people. I think they will. I think the writers will take it to heart. At least cross my fingers.
Yeah, like the difference between chapter 3 and chapter 1 and 2 was like night and day.
Yeah, I mean enough for all of us to feel really good about it. Captain Plays, you want to give your last thoughts on what you'd like to see for the future?
Yeah, like Kay said, we got to see if Chapter 4 is a repeat of Chapter 1, but I'm honestly very optimistic on how the story is turning out, and I really hope that it's not like Chapter 1, like he said.
Yeah, at the very least, I mean, Honkai has had a very slow burn kind of pacing for the longest time. So at least we have an expectation now of like, okay, if there are slow moments, there are slow moments, but hopefully it will build up to something good in the end, So
Yeah.
let's hope that this very hard lesson that we've learned will, help set our expectations for the future, Void Archives, you want to give your last thoughts?
What I really liked about like the latest chapters, that they're finally like paying off if you did the other chapters, like a post Honkai Odyssey. I've been hoping for like the third chapter or something telling us, hey, actually, we didn't retcon this, it's like it's still there. I've been hoping for something that reassured me of that for like years. And I finally got that with May appearing with her design, Bronya appearing as Silverwing, and all of that. It's like, oh my god, finally!
Yeah, I don't know. For such a long time, and I'm sure there's a couple people now still who are like, "Oh, APHO is like an alternate universe, not canon." Like, okay, like they've been building up to it for a long time. Like it's finally here.
No, that's saddens me. Because AFO was like
also-
clearly their playing ground for what they're doing with part 2 right now. So it's like, okay, you're doing something. You better do it right.
Yeah, I think it's exciting to know, like, oh, we're finally reaching that moment. We're like getting closer all the time, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do after APHO. You know, like what kinds of things are they going to set up in the story now to give us a big grand ending? That's
Alien. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all I had to say.
Alien Space did say that there were civilizations stronger than the Sky People that the Sky People were actually scared of. That terrifies me. If we get to meet them,
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that goes. Do you have any other last thoughts with Archives?
Not really. That's about all I have to say, because like being biased towards Void Archives, like it's not obvious. That's one of the reasons AFO is my favorite story. So it's nice to finally see the story leading up to it, even if very slowly. It's good. It's rewarding. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to hear the story of how Void Archives got out of imaginary space for you.
Well, they do say it. They just say, "I escaped while no one was looking." So, it's like, all right.
Let's see that. I want to
Very
see it.
vague. Yeah, I'm hoping we'll
So,
get more details.
yeah, we're getting there. My last thoughts on all of this is I think I'm just glad to have a moment where everybody who was a veteran is like, okay, this is the Honkai that I've always known. You know, the ups and downs, the emotional like turmoil, you know, and then the happy endings, the Yuri, of course. Like I think this story arc, for all of its pacing issues, brought back like a lot of the feelings that we had all throughout the entire story of Honkai Impact, you know? Like the tragedy, the loss, and of course the theme of love. Um I thought it really captured that and put it right in the middle of the narrative in a, at least to me, a very, very satisfying way. So for me, I consider this story arc one of my favorites that they've ever told, and a very strong foundation for the rest of part 2, you know. So I want them to keep increasing the quality from here. Like this is a good this is a decent start. I won't say it's the best. This is a decent start. Let's tell a great story, and I hope the writers can feel good about that, and I hope the players can come back and see that look, we're having a good time now, and we're all engaged with the story now. Come back, come and see. Yeah, I'm very excited to see the future, and I'm very happy to have everyone here today. Thank you so much for participating in our session, and we'll do more of these chapter recaps after. We'll probably do a chapter recap after every chapter now. It's something we've been planning for a while, but this is one for the whole story arc. So, for anyone who wants to participate in the future, we'll look out for the announcements in the server, and we might open this up as well to people who just see our account on Twitter. So look forward to announcements on the Twitter. Anyway, this was the Captain on the Bridge podcast. Thank you to all of our guests for appearing, and we'll see you next time. Let's fight for all that's beautiful in the world.